The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello people, it's Friday once again, which means it's the end of the week, yay! And the end of the week means a very small episode for you guys this time. We're in Stratford on Avon again, and this is a tiny place, which is actually a really good thing because we've walked a long way today. So this is just a nice way to cap it all off for the end of this first initial run. Welcome to Wolverton. Wolverton, Wolfweirds Farm. The last in this current run of Stratford parishes is also the last one in Warwickshire this year. We were pretty flat by this point, given all the walking we'd done over the past 48 hours, but thankfully Wolverton was the ideal place to explore. A tiny village consisting mainly of housing, Wolverton lies just to the north of Stratford in a sparsely populated part of the district. Once a hive of activity for both the Romans and the Saxons, the village was recorded in the Domesday Book as Warwickshire and had 2 manorial estates. It was known as Wolverdington until the middle of the 19th century. There's a small parish church dedicated to St Mary the Virgin here, its oldest part dating from the 13th century, with additions made in the 14th, 16th and 19th. It's accessible only by a path as it's set back from the road. The only other landmark of note is the village hall. The rest of the good stuff is in a subsidiary part called Wolverton Fields. Of course, we'll be covering the church, the village hall and the small school at Wolverton Fields. There's also a farm animal rescue sanctuary in this one too. Wolverton was the birthplace of the Church of England cleric Henry Tong, whose father was the rector. Tong kept observant diaries of 2 Mediterranean voyages he made as a naval chaplain in the late 17th century. He's easily the best known son of Wolverton. With the weak autumn sunlight about to fade on this October day, we decided we'd better get going. So let's. Before we get into the walk, we first have to cover a wartime relic south of the village on private land. It's the site of a World War II bombing decoy. This was a system of lights or fires used as a counterfeit target for enemy aircraft who would drop their bombs on the decoy instead of RAF bases. The decoy at Wolverton was to protect RAF Hunnerley and was located 900 metres southeast of the village. We'll see RAF Hunnerley in a future episode. It closed in 1958 after being used as a motor vehicle test track. Originally called Ramsey, it was renamed RAF Hunnerley in August 1941 and was used by a variety of squadrons defending the Midlands during the war. So there can be no denying the importance of the decoy. Unfortunately, with it being off limits to the public, these pictures are the best I can do. But even so, England's wartime past should never be forgotten. So this is Wolverton Village, which is mainly houses. They include what was a row of cottages, now one house, which date back to 1469, which were originally of wattle and daub construction. This is the village hall, a wooden building that I could find pretty much nothing about. A Google search suggested a connection to the supermarket giant Tesco, but that was well off the mark. That's a reference to the old bathhouse in Wolverton near Milton Keynes, a long way from here. So from here it was a case of following the main road until we met a bend where we'd pick up a footpath. The Wilkes family of clockmakers lived in the village from 1711 to 1792. William Wilkes made clocks from the late 1740s until 1792 and took on a number of apprentices to do so. He made the turret clock for Claverton Church in 1777 and one for Barkswell Church too. Jasmine Cottage was the village blacksmiths for many years, and Trinity Cottage was in 1912 the home of John Busby, the roadman or lengthsman. The old rectory dates back to the 17th century and was once the residence of the village cider grinder. Wolverton used to have a manor house. It's believed to have stood on what is now the rectory's front lawn. It was built in 1590 by Captain Thomas Staunton, and the family lived there until 1738. Wolverton Court is arguably the most impressive house here. It has a Tudor wing dating back to 1547 and a Georgian section built in about 1800 by the Wilcox family. During World War I, part of the court was used as a military hospital, and in World War II it was requisitioned for the Women's Land Army. Just wait for Nikki to catch me up.
I'm catching you up, no problem these days, I'm going ahead.
I've apparently got a spring in my step right now.
Yeah, 'cause you can see the finish line.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well, we're not quite at the finish line yet. We have walked through the main village here, but we haven't quite finished with it because we haven't yet seen the church. Now, to get to the church, we need to go through this gate.
View.
This gate here with, yes indeed, with a beautiful view. There's a footpath there, which will take us around the back of the village towards the church. The view from this path was something else. A lot of people would consider this to be pretty boring, but I don't. I love the countryside and I could have stayed here all day. This field was something of a farm machinery graveyard in places too. Now we're at the church, a tiny building accessed only via the path or a drive off the main road. This was built in 1208 and was either superseded or rebuilt during the early 1280s. It was enlarged again and consecrated on the 11th of July 1325. One of the two bells in its belfry is believed to be very ancient and to have been present at the consecration by the Bishop of Worcester. The patron at the time was John Dominus Wolverton, with the rector being Walter, son of Alexandrius. A comprehensive list of rectors of the parish hangs behind the font. Window glass in the west and northwest of the church dates back to the 13th century, whilst the doom window glass in the top of the east window is from the 14th century. The coat of arms of Anne Neville, daughter of Henry Beauchamp, sits in the north window of the choir stalls. Definitely a bit cooler in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's quite warm outside today. I don't know whether you can tell, but we're kind of sweating a little bit. It's unseasonably warm for October. Now, there's no famous graves here, are there?
No. Some Commonwealth War graves.
But no Richard Griffiths this time, as we saw in BLE yesterday. Okay, so that's it for the church, and effectively that's kind of it for Wolverton. However, there is another little piece to this parish which we will catch in the car. And to get to the car, we need to just basically make our way back down the drive, the churchyard drive, and take us back to the main road. We're now heading to the Farm Animal Rescue Sanctuary just north of the village. The centre looks like a farm. It cares for over 400 farm animals, and it's supported by volunteers, donors and other organisations. It's been run by Carol Webb, a former veterinary nurse, since 1988. It was originally based in Hertfordshire, so how did it end up here? Well, by 1992, Carol's flock of animals had grown, forcing her to relocate to Fen Drayton in Cambridgeshire. It wasn't long before her flock had outgrown those premises too. In 1999, Carol moved back to Hertfordshire, choosing to live in a mobile home on a site with some land for her rescued animals. It wasn't a great move. Vandalism caused numerous problems and made life extremely difficult. So then, there was one final move. It's been based here at the 59-acre Woolley Park Farm ever since. Now we're heading into Wolverton Fields, a long straight road which connects the village to Norton Lindsay. Wolverton School stands halfway along this stretch and has served the two villages since 1876. The main schoolhouse and classrooms still remain, with added extensions to accommodate the changing numbers and styles of education over the years. As well as the school, the villages share a cricket club too, which is based in Norton Lindsay. It should be noted, by the way, that the border between the parishes is also the district boundary between Stratford and Warwick. Now, just before we wrap this one up, there's time for a mention of the Wolverton mourning ring. Pictured is an example of a mourning ring. These date back to the Middle Ages and continued to be used until the early 20th century. Mourning rings were personal items usually associated with a deceased person. They had the age, name and date of birth or death inscribed upon them and were worn in memory of someone. The rings were not limited by gender and could be used to commemorate the passing of any loved one. Such a ring was found in Wolverton. It was made of gold with a skull design engraved on the edge. This would have originally been defined in black enamel but had worn down over time. The inscription read Alice Wagstaff, 5th of November 81, which refers to the year 1681. The person who found the ring, Chris Matthews, carried out some research and discovered that a man of the name Wagstaff lived in the village at the same date, so there was a possibility Alice was his wife. Further digging revealed Alice was the daughter of Thomas Stanton. The Stanton family were lords of the manor of Wolverton for nearly 200 years, and monuments to the family can be found in the church. How about that, eh? What a find. And there we go, Wolverton is done and the run is complete. We had a couple of other things to do, so we headed off in the direction of Stratford after we'd finished this one. We will be back here again soon though. We really enjoyed this run and it'll be great to cover some more in this historic part of Warwickshire. See you soon. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.